Good morning and welcome to today's webinar on Treat Your Content Like a Corporate Asset and Increase User Satisfaction with Best Practices Leader at TechProse, Paula Toth. My name is Susan Lee, Marketing Specialist at Just Systems Canada. And before we begin, I'd like to go through a few housekeeping items. First, the webinar will be recorded and sent out to you after the event is over. Also, if you have any questions during the webinar, please use the Q&A chat box on the right-hand side of the window. At this time, I'd like to hand the presentation over to Paula.
I would like to introduce you to TechProse. TechProse is celebrating its 30th year of service to the technical writing community. We provide enterprise content management, enterprise learning and development, and change management services. I'm here to you today about how you can increase your user satisfaction when you treat your content as a corporate asset. And I'll show you how to do this by telling you a story about a client we've been working with for the past several years. Before we get started, we'd like to conduct a quick little poll to get a better understanding of our audience. Susan? If you mind taking a minute to from items 1 and 2, that'd be great. A few more minutes to pull in here. Poll has ended. Would you please tell us what the results were?
Yes. So it looks like the majority of our audience would prefer to reuse modular content chunks and prefer multiple outputs from a unified content.
Okay, thank you. All right, go on with our agenda here for the day. Here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with an overview of why our example client felt that they needed to make a change, their top 4 pains and the effects that they had. And then we'll look at some key factors that drove the decisions that we made about our recommended solution. I'll give you some context to illustrate when DITA is right and the components of a DITA publishing system. Then I'll walk you through the details of our complete solution and the results that it produced. Before we get into a demo of our solution, I'll share with you some best practices about putting together a project, getting requirements, evaluating tools, creating content, loading your repository, and publishing to multiple outputs. Then we'll get into a live demo, and I'll show you our solution, how it works. We'll summarize at the end, and you can list your questions in the chat box as we go along. We'll address them in the end. So without further ado, let's start our client story. The large global company, they had a publishing workflow where the content was authored and stored in FrameMaker to make PDF output, and then imported to Madcap Flare to output a very nice help system. This was together fine and good, but it turned out that it was very time-consuming and used inconsistent publishing. So we would have to re-engineer something. Now I know importing from FrameMaker to Madcap Flare sometimes will not come out very clean. FrameMaker, even though you have standard master templates and you train authors to use them, there's nothing that it requires that the author enforce the master templates. When deadlines, authors often choose to apply creative styling to individual headings, paragraphs, characters, and even spaces. This can lead to very inconsistent brand formatting. For us, meant that to get our text, graphics, complex table styles, and lots of little bitty special characters all formatted correctly in Madcap Flare, we had to clean up the frame files. And even when the frame files were squeaky clean, we still had to do too much hand manipulation in Flare and in XMetaL output that was not possible to automate. So clearly this was not going to be a sustainable workflow to have to re-engineer the publishing process. Now, there are several ways we could do that, but hold to that thought. as there are still two more pains yet to be considered. The major pain was a massive content duplication. It went to the nature of the client's products. They all share a core set of features and services. This caused the authors to copy and paste duplicating content within documents and across documentation sets. The duplication was highly granular and included copying rows and tables. And lastly, what good is having a comprehensive documentation set if users can't possibly access it? When we did our clients' users, a vast majority of them said that when they had a question about using a product, they preferred to search the Internet to get immediate answers. They want to be able to use any Internet-capable device to do this kind of searching. Unfortunately, the individual topics of our client's Madcap Flare project were not easily indexable by search engines. Of not addressing these pains was that the product time to market was delayed, waiting for the documentation to be published. The documentation often contained inaccuracies and inconsistencies due to copying the content. Users were not satisfied with the documentation, even if they could find it. And instead of searching for answers to questions, users just went to technical support. There were ways we could solve each of these four pains, but after analyzing them all, it became clear that resolving pains 1 and 3, time to publish and the content duplication, would be key. The way to solve these pains would affect the solution for the other pains as well. To pain 1, the timely publishing, we needed to be able to automate the publishing workflow and anything else that made sense. To resolve pain 3, that duplication, we needed to support topic-based authoring with content sharing features that included reusable topics, paragraphs, phrases, row tables, and topic sequences and tied topic sequences. In our experience, due to the granularity of the reuse and the need for automation, make a commitment to a DITA system was going to be the best answer. Now brings up the question, when is DITA right? After all, DITA requires an investment of time and money, and if you consider making this change, you should take the time to think through the ROI. The real question here is, what pains can DITA resolve while still providing ROI? One of the biggest benefits of DITA comes from the standardization of content, either to ensure legal compliance and avoid lawsuits, or to minimize the number of words that need to be translated and retranslated as content is updated. Now, when it comes to single source publishing to multiple output targets, that DITA is really made for. So if you have to publish to more than one output format, device, or maybe both, a DITA system can offer a considerable savings in time and money. Additionally, the more content reuse potential you have, the greater the ROI is when using DITA. Where the ROI tipping point is depends on your content, but most of them is 33% or more duplication. And lastly, it can automate content creation, manipulation, or repetitive publishing and other workflow tasks. Then you have quite a bit of time and money. Automation requires standardized tagging so that machines can do more consistently and quickly what takes hours for human hands to do. For instance, you might want to lift content directly from application source code and put it into your publications. Or reverse and take content from your publications, put it into your application for embedded help. This can all be automated with DITA. A product that is right for DITA is a cocktail of many of these pains and benefits. So getting ROI doesn't tend to be the problem. The important thing is to be aware of your metrics and why you are moving to DITA in the first place. Now, one thing before we get into the details of our particular solution, let's explore the components of a DITA system so that we are talking apples to apples. How simple or complex the system is, it does have components that convert content from the original format to DITA by hand or with automation. a component that enables authors to create content topics and sequence them in publications like books, chapters, articles, online modules, and the like. A component that facilitates the review workflow with or without collaboration. And a component to store content sources like topics, public sequences. This could be something like a file system, a version control system, or a component content management system. And lastly, a component that formats the output that in sequences to various formats such as PDF, help, EPUB, or HTML, for example. So needed to cover all of these components. So after a bit of research, here are the details of how we created our solution. To reverse pain and reduce the publishing effort, we've an automated conversion tool that converted the FrameMaker content storage and automated publishing to both PDF and HTML5 output. Document has a review workflow that you can customize to meet your needs, but we decided that the managed review workflow in Adobe Acrobat X with Acrobat.com worked just fine for us. To resolve the pain of the inconsistent brand styling, we separated authoring and publishing and unified brand styling throughout all documentation sets, applying the same complex style specification to both PDF and HTML5 output. Then pane 3, we reduced the duplication by applying the reuse features available to us in DITA, including reusing maps inside maps, topic reuse, or text inserts, and the DITA files for filtering conditions when we published. And one of the significant things we did to solve pane 4 and make the content more accessible, we put a nice HTML5 help plugin for the DITA Open Toolkit. Interviewing product managers and experts for the additional help systems listed here. We learned that most help systems use frame sets and iframes or tables for page formatting, making it difficult for search engines to properly index the content in the help topics. Some traditional help systems also use services on the web server that can require occasional resetting, causing help pages to be unavailable to users. If a help system uses plugins, such as Flex or Flash, then the devices used to view the help have the plugins installed or be capable of running them. This may be problematic for some corporations that don't allow these plugins or devices that can't use them. Also, we had to consider the growing adoption of mobile devices and how this would impact the content delivery. With DITA HTML5, we had the option of building both small and large screen outputs. Our vanilla HTML5 system uses cascade style sheets for formatting and JavaScript to deliver navigational behaviors. The cascading style sheets and JavaScript reside in external modules, making them easy to change and maintain. The individual help pages only reference the code contained in these modules. This also makes it easier for code reviews that are mandatory for highly regulated websites. So, a picture of the components provided. Enterprise DITA authoring, document for storing content, resources, topics, publications, sequences, configuration files, and anything else. Style formatting instructions and automated publishing for the two output targets, which were a complex PDF output that published with or without change tracking and change bars, and HTML5 help. We used Adobe Acrobat Pro X, Acrobat.com, and the Reader for the review workflow. What all this re-engineering project really achieved? Looking the metrics both before and after our project, here's the end result. Just automating the publishing outputs, we decreased the cost to publish the content by 15%, reduced the time to output the content from days to 1.5 hours for PDF, and from 4 weeks to 10 minutes for the help. These features enable authors to reduce the number of words that have to be maintained in the repository by about half, reducing the cost to update the content by an additional 35%. The total savings of 40% or more. This also structured the content and eliminated the inaccuracies and inconsistencies caused by copying content. Now, the openness of the HTML5 help system made the content accessible to any search engine from any device, enabling users to get immediate answers to their questions any place, anytime. The user satisfaction rating can increase because users can easily find the content they're looking for. Now, let's take a quick tour through a list of best practices. You can download these as part of the presentation if you find them helpful. Kick off your DITA project. The first thing you should do is a pilot sample. You can do this in conjunction with your tools evaluation. The point of the pilot is to mock up topic-based content that is organized according to the DITA information models, concept, task, and reference. A tool like Microsoft Word that you're familiar with. As you go through the pilot, you will work out issues while simultaneously providing a clear visual example of how content will change once it is in DITA. Pilot sample should be small, no more than 50 pages, and include all of the major content elements that exist in your content. Make sure to include the good and the ugly in your sample. As you go forward, you will use the pilot sample a lot. For instance, you'll use it as you evaluate new tools, as you test conversion animation, as you build your formatted output. I still use my pilot sample today to test out new stuff I want to do with content or outputs or data. As you approach your tools evaluation, remember that the decision to purchase a tool should be driven by your requirements. Even if you are selecting from a list of industry standard tools, you check off all the requirements on your list. Give all the vendors your sample content and a list of requirements. This helps keep things consistent so you can compare apples to apples. 2 slides contain a list of things to consider when you are building your list of requirements. This list is not all-encompassing, but it can give you a leg up and get the old gray cells moving in the right direction. Now, once you make your tool selection, you're ready to convert your content in low repository. These 2 slides contain a list of things to consider. The first thing to convert is your pilot sample. Because the sample contains the good and the ugly, you can be sure that you have converted all the major elements that are in your existing content. How the sample is tagged will set the standard for the conversion will be tagged throughout the entire content set. So make sure you review the tagging before you start the more massive parts of your conversion process. Both the conversion and the loading of the repository take place in batches. This allows you to make nuanced adjustments as you go along. Also consider repository could be something as simple as a flat file system, or Plex as a component content management system. Either way, the things listed here should be considered. Now, when it comes to building the formatted output, use your pilot sample again to help this process along. I add a mock-up of my pilot using tools I'm familiar with, and get that formatting approved before I start the process of building the formatted DITA output. This saves tons of time and money. As outputs are being built, test and compare them against your formatted pilot sample. You can build endlessly complex outputs using the DITA rendering engines, but there is a point of diminishing returns. As you simplify your form wherever you can, remember you want to get the benefits of automated formatting, and topics will be used in multiple publications. Therefore, it's best to allow the automation to do what it's best and avoid making the outputs look totally like what you might do if you were formatting each page by hand. Also remember to check the log files for a warning warnings and errors. Sometimes if something's mistagged or if there's been a change to the system, you might see these warnings and errors. This is something you do on an iterative basis, even when your data system is mature. Now let's take a look at some live content and processing. Let's open up DocZone and take a look at topics in XMetaL. Now we'll be navigating and trying to talk at the same time. Please be a bit patient while I try to multitask. Here's DocZone. We're in the cloud real time. The interface is very simple, as you can see. Compared to most CMSs, it's easy enough for almost anyone to use, even people who've never used a CMS before or who've never used DITA. As you can see, we separate folders for images, topics, and the DITA maps. This allows you greater reuse potential. So let's take a look at one of our topics inside the topic repository. And open it here in XMetaL. Integrated with DocZone and most other repositories, content management systems, CMSs, or other source code control systems. When I click the XMetaL icon, this topic automatically is checked out of the repository, as you can see here, and to keep our authors from using the file and creating conflicts. The file never leaves the repository. With XMetaL, I have a choice of authoring in the very simple WYSIWYG view, and we'll start right here. Or as I get a little bit more experience, I can easily switch to the tags on view so I can see the structure of the XML tags. When I spread XML author, I may prefer to occasionally dip down into the code to do things that I want to do or fix stuff. This is where I spend a good bit of my time. So the WYSIWYG view is a way making the content easy to deal with when you are authoring. The styling that you see here does not represent how the content will look when it is published. After all, content could be published in any number of different outputs. That said, in XMetaL, you can choose to customize the WYSIWYG view so that it does reflect your output styling. Now, one thing XMetaL is known for is the way it does track changes, just like MS Word would. So let's turn on our track changes so that we can watch that happen as we modify this file. Let's add a new paragraph. All I do is put my cursor at the end of a previous paragraph and press the Enter key. This gives me a placeholder where I can type. As you see, I can just type along with no problem. Now let's say I want to add a bulleted list. Again, I just press Enter. I go up to ribbon and I choose the bulleted list icon and click it. And this is my first bulleted item. Now I want a second one. I just hit Enter, and it gives me already the appropriate DITA tags. If I want to indent an item in this list, I simply go up to the ribbon, select the indent, and the item is indented directly under that. Now let's say I want to do the same thing for a numbered list. Take the same kind of procedure and rather pick the numbered icon on the ribbon. Gives me the automatic numbering. Please ignore my spelling. And when I press Enter at the end of that, I get the second numbered item. Again, if I want to indent that to have a sub-item, I go up to the ribbon, push the indent key, and this is my sub. Okay. Now, what if I want to add a table? Again, I just give myself an empty paragraph, and just like in Microsoft Word, I pick the table icon, specify the number of rows and columns for my table. Select the header if I want it, press OK, and here is my table. Better looks. Here's how text in a cell looks. And if I don't like this setup, I just drag the bars just like I would in Microsoft Word. So you see how easy it is for a non-DITA author to go ahead and get started typing with topics. Now if I want to add a graphic, I do exactly what you would expect. Go up to the ribbon again, press the icon for graphic. Now this takes me to the repository where I can navigate to where I store my images. Storing all images together encourages reuse. I select the image that I want, and there it is in my document. Now I default an inline image. If I don't want it inline, I can choose to give it a break and put it on a separate line itself. Another powerful thing about XMetaL is that it allows me to cut and paste from other resources. So let's go ahead and take a look at, something that's on the internet, for example. And if I want to copy this from the XMetaL site, as you see, it's a numbered list, just highlight it and copy it, back to XMetaL, and paste it right in here. Now, XMetaL will keep the styling that was there in the HTML, since HTML is a structured language, and it will automatically transform the HTML to DITA tags. This is a very helpful thing when you are building your pilot, as you can imagine. Now, we notice that there is a lot of green looking stuff here. This green stuff is exactly the change tracking that I was talking about earlier. Here, XMetaL is using this green underlined as an indicator for insertion. Now, what if we want to do deletion? So we just go up here, press the delete key, and as you can see, we get the red strikeout, which is the indicator for the deletion. It also puts these vertical change bars in the margin. Now, we took advantage of XMetaL's change tracking and created a PDF output that allows us to show the change bars or the complete markup for change tracking, either or both. I'll show you how this works at the end of the demo when we build some actual content. XMetaL also allows me to do a rather interesting thing. We build marvelous little templates and then load them to our repository. So what I'd like to do now is show you what kind of thing we can do with templates. Here's my templates repository in DITA, and just for kicks, we'll take a look at this one, which concept topic template. Now, the others for this client, a lot of tabular work. So we specified certain table types, and we put each of these table types in the concept file. So all the author has to do is scroll through these, pick the table types they want to keep, and delete the rest. This keeps them from having to take time to do all of this fancy split cell and merge cell stuff by hand, which is just not worth it. Instead, they've got a lovely template that they can use and just start from there. Saves a good bit of time and makes it a lot easier, especially for novice authors. Now, when I'm done with my topic, when I'm done with my topic in XMetaL, right here it is. All I do is save it and switch back to the repository. You see, I have to go back to where it is. Here, as you see, my topic is still checked out. I'm going to check my topic in. And DocZone allows me to put a note about I changed about that topic, that I can log the topic into the history, the changes into the history. When I put check-in button, the file will be unlocked from the repository so that other authors can use it, and my changes will be committed back to the repository. Now, at any time, if I want to drop back to a previous version of this topic, I can do this just by browsing the history and back. The entire repository can be dropped back to a specific date. So this is a great safety net for new authors. Once file is checked in, I can navigate to where I set the maps. You see the main book map, and all these book maps are also used inside this book map. That is the DITA map inside a DITA map, single sourcing. And I just press the publication builder. The instance of DocZone is configured to publish PDF and HTML5 output. It has many other outputs, including EPUB and others, which you can choose to activate. Once I select my output for PDF and then select how I want my change bars to show, I can print this as change markers totally clean. I can print with both change markers and text, or with just the bars only. So let's take a look at bars and text so that we see the full strikeout. If I wanted to specify condition, I would do that there. Once I create my specification for the build, I just click OK. And then I watch this little circle indicator running around. That'll tell me when the build is going to be done. This takes a few minutes. Now, this is building. I'll mention a bit about the quality of PDF typographic control you can get with the DITA rendering engines. A rendering engine maps DITA tag specifications to a formatting specification for the nicely styled publication. You have to create the format specifications. Now, no limit other than practicality to the formatting you can specify, but as I said earlier, it's a best practice to start with something simple because you can always build on to your formatting instructions as you go. Now our little wheelie here is done spinning. We will be able to open our PDF file and view the changes that we made in the demonstration content. Here it is. And I just click this PDF file. It'll open inside the repository. And this is my sample, my 50-page little pilot sample. And this is how the content looks. Now to navigate to our change topic, to do is go here. And here's our strikeout. And as you see, the strikeout has a horizontal bar. The main is the insertion, and it has a vertical bar. Now, people often say that you can't get a fancy formatting from the DITA system. But this PDF file has lots of complications, including this landscape format, the two-column layout, which is to a one-column layout to accommodate these wide tables, wide code, wide graphics, and the links that you saw here for the chapter divider pages are all automated. They're picked up from the DITA map, including the graphic. And when we go home, the page is also including the book title and the product name and the vernum. So, the PDF formatting specifications automatically handle all of this. The author doesn't touch it. We have never had a problem accommodating all of our clients' complex output, brand, or styling specifications. Now I want to show you how this same bit of specification looks in the online help. This is the PDF. Here is the online help. This is the HTML5 help that we built. You can see as I navigate through the TOC, even though the remote meeting is attached, the velocity of change for this HTML5 help is extremely fast. This is done with AJAX indexing technology. All topics have their own URL here. it very easy for search engines to index each page and make it accessible via search. The system has a very clean interface. We kept it very simple so that it can be formatted for specific brand needs of any of our clients. It has 5 modes of navigation, including this expanding and collapsing TOC. It comes with highlighted text view exactly where in the TOC hierarchy you are at any given time. The link here at the bottom of the page, the parent and child links, are automatically populated by the help system. The help author does not have to do this. And if the help author is using tables, the tables are supported. The name back and forward of the browser are totally supported. And the help system has been rigorously tested. We support Internet Explorer 7, 8, and 9 on XP and Windows 7, as well as all the latest versions of Chrome, Firefox, and Safari. Now, as this help system has been built as an HTML5 plugin for the DITA Open Toolkit, you can use it with any DITA implementation. If you have questions about this, please contact me and I can tell you more about this plugin. Now, switch back to XMetaL. We use XMetaL because the design team has really thought about the user authoring experience. They've done everything they can to implement a set of features that makes it much more pleasant and speedy to create and maintain topics in a high-volume setting. The face is highly customizable for things even other than this that you're seeing here. And best of all, you can on a first-name basis with their technical support and administrative staff. So, in summary, why waste time with manual publishing techniques when you can automate these repetitive tasks with the push of a button? Why copy and duplicate content, introducing errors when you can reuse content? And why hide your content in a traditional help system when you can deliver it on your intranet, extranet, or the internet as a completely open and searchable HTML5 help pages, accessible from any internet-capable device? By using DITA, XMetaL, DocZone, and our HTML5 online help plugin for the DITA Open Toolkit, TechProse was able to reduce the cost of updating the documentation while simultaneously increasing the quality of the content and enhancing the user experience. Now, if you have any questions about this presentation, please don't hesitate to contact me or the folks at XMetaL. And I'll take a minute to try to find my little ending slide. We are now ready for questions.
Paula, so we have 3 questions that came in so far, and we'd love to hear from people if they have other questions as well. The first question I have is about, do you recommend a PDF rendering application? Which one did you use in this example?
We did. We used TopLeaf, and TopLeaf is integrated with XMetaL. Now, TopLeaf is a rendering engine along with Antenna House and RenderX and the FO from the DITA Open Toolkit. The advantage of TopLeaf is that it enables non-programmer users to be able to specify their formatting instructions. It's kind of like using an interface to be able to create the formatting instructions rather than using code directly. So this also simplified things a lot. And the TopLeaf does address directly some of the limitations of the FO and some of the other rendering engines so that you have greater flexibility. We got a more highly complex output in a shorter period of time by using the turnkey solutions, TopLeaf.
Great. So the next one I have is someone who might have missed it and asked, does DocZone work with FrameMaker?
Well, Voxzone is a component content management system. Now, technically speaking, in any content management system, you should be able to send any file. However, that is storage. If you want to interact with the native system that file was created in, then the component content management system or content management system or document management system, whichever one you choose, has to be integrated with that software. Framer is not integrated with Voxzone. However, XMetaL is.
Next question I have is, what version of XMetaL is being used?
One is 6. We weren't able to upgrade to 7. We really love to do that, and it is supported.
Next question I have is, we use XMetaL for authoring and TriSauce for our CMS and DITA, and I'm familiar with reuse of topics and paragraphs. Can you talk more about reuse of phrases, rows and tables, sequences inside sequences?
Yeah. So let's just try the sequences inside sequences first. So if we go back to Voxzone here, and remember I showed you my my DITA map repository here for this demo content, my little pilot. Each one of these DITA maps is used inside this main book map. So when I say sequences inside sequences, what I'm referring to is, as an architect, you can hunk up your content in such a way that you have, let's call it an article, a module of content that stands on its own, and you want to reuse it as a module. You also want to reuse the topics inside this module also in other DITA maps. So what you do is you create a module just for whatever purpose you have, this article sequence, and you link it up inside a main book map. So when we open this main book map up in XMetaL, you'll be able to see that all it contains, that's normal, don't worry, is a lovely list of, get through here. We should not open up. There it is. Okay. What we see is a lovely list of just a bunch of just DITA maps. Get aberrant behavior here. Okay, there you go. These are all DITA maps. You can see that more clearly when I do this or when I do this. Familiar with the code, you can see that these are just DITA maps inside a DITA map. So that's a sequence. So when we're talking about rows and tables, close this. What I'm particularly referring to is the conref. And you can conref for key ref paragraph. You can conref for key ref any element. Isn't any element, pretty much. So what you want to think about, and in the case of this particular problem that we were dealing with here in the PDF, I can show you, the tables were replicated over and over and over and over and over again. Looks like I skipped it. What we did was we conrefed that, all right, to there. What you do is you create an empty table, just has the row element, and then you conref back to a master file, which contained basically huge tables. Some of them are hundreds of pages long. I picked the field number that we wanted to conref, and we conrefed from this point to this point, and that fed into a topic. Making sense, I hope. You know how to use conref, or look up conref in your DITA manuals, and you'll see that you can use this to do a paragraph, a phrase, or any other large element, including rows and tables. That's what made us make the decision for DITA, because although there are other single source tools out there that you can use that do a fine job of single sourcing at the paragraph level or the topic level, some do phrases, but none do rows and tables other than DITA at this point in time. So that, because so much of this going on, we had to go ahead and conref these rows that we wanted to duplicate in many places throughout the content. Now, reusing a phrase means that you can have your, for instance, your phrases like this, your confidentiality, your disclaimer phrases. When you have those kinds of things that you want to reuse over and over and over again, it's a good idea to put them just in a topic file that's not going to be used directly by any data map. And instead of using those topics over and over again, conref that. Those phrases or conrefs that have into a place where your copyright's going to be. That allows you to maintain the copyright in one place. And what these conref files end up looking like is kind of like a color garbage heap. You know, it's a topic that has in it all sorts of little things. It could even have things like Vernum in it, version 1, version 2, version 3. And rather than set you treat it like a variable rather than actually typing that by hand into each place. You just conref that from the garbage file into the actual live file that you're using in your data maps. I hope that makes sense. If you have any further questions about that, please feel free to contact me.
Great, Paula. And then the next question I have is, in the XMetaL interface, can you show us how you apply style tags like title for different headings?
Yeah. Now, I'll show you then to answer that question. Something kind of silly. I want to go to my repository, to my pilot, into these crazy topics. Now, this is ways to approach your information architecture, and your information architect should be telling you how he or she wants you to handle DITA tags, because there's DITA tagging and then there's DITA tagging. The spec is very specific, but leaves you aside a certain kind of sandbox, and you can interpret that sandbox any old way you want to. Now, it's possible to do kind of thing. Now, I've just typed the words heading 1 here. You're not specifying heading 1. And what you specify is just title. And what you're doing is you're nesting topic inside topic inside topic inside topic. That's one way to do it. The way to do it is just have a topic and a section title and nest the full inside the DITA map where you're nesting files, and that creates the heading structure. So you have to stop thinking in a DITA system or any system where you are single sourcing and sharing topics. Stop thinking about head level and just start thinking about how is my content structured. You have to think from an information architecture point of view. So although this is one way a topic can look, it can also look, going into our original sample again, okay, here you just have one heading. If I want to, I go here and pick the, excuse me, I have to change view. I had simplified my view for this demo. Here it is. Element list. Okay. The section tag. I'm not in the right place. Anyway, you pick the section tag and you insert it, and that allows you to put in another title. Still not in the right place. I need the bobbles. There it is. Section. And you put in section tag, and then you can get a second level title. So in essence, you could think of it like this. Head 2. And you could think this one as 1, because what I've done is nest a section title inside a topic title. So the information architect will tell you what is the appropriate way to tag your content. Whether you want to tag it this way and then nest this inside a hierarchy to get those 6 levels of headings this way, or you want to do it the way I showed you earlier, which was a topic inside a topic inside a topic in the same file. Either legitimate and validates this DITA. I hope I've answered your question.
The last question I have is, title of presentation, how does this effort help raise the importance of documentation to the typical executive team of a company? Their company right now places a high value of documentation. Does not, sorry.
This is back to another presentation that I've made having to do with making the business case. So understanding that DITA save money because you're reusing content is a thing, but you get this great advantage because you're saving money because you're structuring content. The structuring of the content makes it easier for users to find things, makes it easier for engines to find things, makes it more accessible in general, whether it's on the internet or in a PDF file. So get a double whammy whenever you go to structured authoring, whether you use DITA or whether you use structured frame or whether you use the structure in a Madcap Flare, whatever kind of structured authoring you're going to apply. When you start to be more structured, your content is going to be easier to find. It's going to give the user, the reader, better reader's experience. The more structured your content is, the less money you spend on maintaining it because you are sharing content, because you are reducing your translation costs. And when you make the business case because you understand your metrics both before and after, and you could say to your senior executive team, look, here are the ROIs that people are getting. And I showed you from the presentation that just what we did by automating publishing, we saved 15%. That means you're leaving 15% sitting on the table because you're doing a lot of things by hand. Does that make sense? Now, when executives start to see that, oh gosh, we've got an opportunity to save up to 50 or 40% because we've structured our content, we can get an ROI that can return within 2 years or less. Sometimes if you're doing translation, you get ROI return within 6 months. It can be marked. So depend on the size of your content repository and what it's like now. How structured is your repository now? The structure you have, the deeper the ROI is going to be. So making a strong business case and knowing how to make a strong business case is critical in being able to make your point to management that your content is valuable in the first place. Furthermore, people like Victor Solano, who is using a DITA system at Autodesk, are able to report massive savings in technical support because the user finally actually using the documentation rather than letting it sit there like a doormat. The idea is to engage users with readers with content that is important and valuable to them. Now, along with this kind of simple DITA reuse, we like to encourage people to consider doing round tripping, which is to allow your reader community to come back to you on each topic in your DITA system, so that when they read each topic in your online help file, they can comment right back to you and tell you what's wrong with it, what they like about it, what they don't like about it. You can then use Google Analytics to be able to track how people use your online help on the Internet. And by tracking how they use the help, you learn that they really need these kind of topics and they don't need those kind of topics. For instance, they don't tend to need a lot of concept, they need a lot of tasks. And in the task range, they only need the tasks that refer to about 80% of their work. They don't need the tasks that refer to things that they're not doing 80% of the time. So you learn what you can deprecate, learn how to be able to curate your content so that you're only writing high-value content and maintaining high-value content. When you do this and you track your metrics before and after and you show this to your executive team by making a good, strong business case, it isn't too hard to get the point across. Now, that's a lot of work on your part, but it's something that you need to be doing. And if you use the rule of 5, which is an estimating rule, it means that you get 5 instances and average over that. You don't have to spend years making your metrics case.
Thank you, Paula. And that's all the questions I have for today.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone for being part of this and for coming here to play with DITA, with Susan and me, and in particular XMetaL. And we hope that you'll enjoy the recording when you get it from Susan. And we'll be looking forward to hearing from you in the future. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call the folks at Just Systems. Here is their contact information. Or call me at TechProse, and I'll be glad to help you with it, whatever is on your mind. Susan?
All right. Thank you, Paula, and thank you, everyone, again, and have a great day.